guys, welcome to Sopi Mix Studio Umbiamas, conectando Aruba com o mundo via vídeo podcasting. Conectar conosco, compartilhar ideias e histórias para nos inspirar e para nos abrir. Sopi Mix Studio é plataforma de podcast na Aruba. Follow-nos no Facebook, subscribe no YouTube ou na plataforma de podcast preferida. Escute o podcast preferido que hora e onde está. Sopi Mix Studio, powered by Qredits. Botou ideia? Qredits educa e prepara a abo para ser um empresário exitoso. De business plan, guia personal e préstamo para negócio até com 100,000 forinhos. Bira para mês donho com Qredits. Sopway. Passa na Sopway para o sop, salada, wrap ou flatbread e mais fresco. Com 7 localidades rond Aruba. Nós está cerca de Ibo. Sopway. SwingMasterz. Organizando events, conferences of weddings. Mister de luz, sound, staging, DJ, trussing of LED screen. SwingMasterz está claro para ser boa fiesta éxito. SwingMasterz. E agora, Sopi Mix Studio, a plataforma de podcast de Aruba, está apresentar.
Yo, you don't know. We going global with this thing. Boom, top class, university. What a global opportunity. Aruba University. Take that, come join me. Together for the local experience. Spread the culture over the nation. Let's build up the community. Learning and teaching in diversity.
Good afternoon. Buon tardi Aruba, buon tardi Deborah.
Bon tardi, good afternoon to everyone here. I'm Deborah van den Berg Alexander, together with Charisse Hoen-Daly.
Yes.
We are here for our first
Straight up conversation about education.
of 2022.
Right. So, thanks, shout out to Sopi Mix and the crew. This program is powered by the University of Aruba, and it is our intention within this hour to share island experience, share information about education in Aruba, ask challenging questions, and with this we hope to empower you, our listener, and our viewer to become lifelong learners and also to invest in yourself.
Yes, and the emphasis is indeed to empower you, really to
Yes.
empower you. I think often we are not empowered in terms of education. We see it more as a burden instead of something that we should embrace. So we hope that after this hour,
Yes.
after this first straight-up conversation for 2022, and there are many more to follow, that you would start looking at your educational trajectory and not think, hey,
Correct.
there isn't a possibility, but look at I can do, I can learn.
Right.
And learning should be an experience that is enjoyed. And remember, there's not
And it's lifelong.
and it's lifelong, and there's not one specific way we should learn in. That's why you have different educational programs that teach kids to learn. But
Correct.
that's a bit of a theoretical background.
Yes,
So
so
we-
we're inviting all our viewers and everybody else every Thursday. Tune in between 3:30 and 4:30. You can find us on all social media channels, on Sopi Mix, and also on that of the University of Aruba. And we encourage you to make your comments because we want to know what you're thinking. The university creates a platform so we can exchange ideas. So, Deborah, please introduce our guest.
Yeah, we are here with two beautiful ladies, and this is all in preparation for next week, the 8th of March, International Women's Day. And for those of you who have missed it, tomorrow the University of Aruba will be organizing an event on that, but we'll come back to that in a bit. I just want to focus now on the two ladies in front of us.
Yes.
Sharon Meijer and Jocelyne.
Are you saying it?
Jocelyne.
Jocelyne.
Jocelyne
We'll
Croes.
tell you just now what's up with the name.
So
Welcome to
welcome.
Straight Up Conversation.
So let's start with Sharon. Sharon, I'm not sure if you've listened to our program before, but again, it's a conversation. There's no right or wrong answer. It's not a quiz. But we just want to start. Tell our audience something. Tell us who you are, what you do.
What I'm currently doing?
Yeah.
Okay, as you mentioned, my name is Sharon Meijer. I'm a mother of 3. I have 3 boys.
Oh, wow.
I'm currently policy advisor at the Department of Economic Affairs and business advisor in the unit of Qredits. So we help entrepreneurs, businesses,
Wow.
and we get more information and guidance and workshops so they can be successful and also go internationally. So,
Wow, thank you. Before we, and also I asked Jocelyne, could you explain a little bit who you are before we go in depth on who they are as a person? Because first, it's also very important to have meaningful conversation by getting to know the person behind the function. So, Jocelyne.
Well, in terms of my work, I'm a special advisor, and raadsadviseur, for the cabinet of the government of Aruba, and specifically on partnerships, international partnerships, and with a focus on international institutions, multilateral institutions, regional institutions, and then with an extra focus on sustainable development and small island development states.
All right, thank you very much again, and
I'm
welcome.
I'm going to be like really a bit of a question because someone might think multilateral organizations. How should I define? How should I interpret this? Can you just specify for someone who's listening in at home and thinking?
Well, very just simply said, mostly the United Nations. Yes, so that makes it easier.
Yes.
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 Well, organizations such as the United Nations.
Just for those of you wondering, because that's part of learning as well. Some people might be afraid to ask questions, or not everyone goes and Google, what does she mean? So I'm trying to make it easy for you, because one of the things is like, okay, how can we describe this? Okay.
Yes. And you listeners or viewers at home, if you have any questions, just put it in a comment and we'll make sure and get back to you. So if it's something that you don't understand, remember lifelong learning. Just simply ask or make a comment.
So I'll move on from Jocelyne.
Yes.
So Jocelyne, you do a lot. I mean, I have your bio and I'll be looking at it tomorrow in our activity. But one of the things that I want to start off is that you come from a mom from Haitian descent. And I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, really? Because that's one of the things we said also with conversations. Through conversations, we get to know people. We get to break down our biases and our judgment about who they are. And then you were saying your name. That's why also the name. It's the way it's pronounced in a French Creole way. And then you said, yes, your mom is very proud of that, and you are very proud. Can you tell us a bit about, that history, that family history of that you come from?
Yeah, well, yes, as I said, that's why I'm Jocelyne, a French name. I have a full French name, Jocelyne Marie Marguerite.
Oh, wow.
And all my siblings.
You got to do the head movements.
Je m'appelle Jocelyne. Yes. In any event, so yes, my grandparents, my grandfather first immigrated to Aruba. He was an electrical engineer and a bit politically involved in Haiti. And so he was aided to come to Aruba. And actually, he helped set up what is now CETAR. So he worked for Philips in Aruba, and at that time. And then after a year, my grandmother joined, and my mother came to bring her. And my mother had already started studying medicine. So at that time in Haiti. And but then she came to Aruba for 3 months and met my dad, and it was love at first sight. And she never left.
Wow, there's a little family history there. Awesome.
Really good to know. Love at first sight. Do we still believe in that?
I know.
Yeah, love at first connection, right? It was a kind of a CETAR. So.
And they were living in Santa Cruz.
Oh, wow.
So in the middle of Aruba, and started their small family there. As a Haitian family, and at that time I think, which is very important in the story, is that, she tells me how she was the first woman wearing shorts.
Interesting.
That she played, and that she played games, and they thought it was strange, and she was definitely the highest educated women around her community at that time, because at that time you didn't have, most women didn't even do MULO. And she had done her baccalaureate and even philo, which is a year extra.
Oh.
Yeah, and she had studied, and she had started her university already. So
let us not forget that.
Yes.
Yeah, Haiti had the best universities and college back then. And we always look at Haiti as being very poor,
and
but
I'm
remember.
sure that people are listening in and thinking, really? But there's so much again in just you sharing the history that the younger generation is not aware, does not know, and which is very important to share. So and I'll touch back into her role as that female, because it all ties back into International Women's Day as well.
And now I can understand Jocelyne better, that eagerness to move forward and really being an advocate for women. But first, We also have Sharon. I'm
is her
proud
family,
because she's an alumni of the University of Aruba, and she graduated same day with her husband, but she graduated cum laude. Thank you, husband. I know you're listening there, and thank you for your support. And kids, tuloy mo siya na kas. Mo sa makita hopi proud di mami. So, Sharon, introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your educational trajectory.
So in my case, I started after finishing Colegio Arubano. I stayed here in Aruba. I started at the Faculty of Law. So I first started, yes. So I have a law background. However, married. So my husband, we are actually high school sweetheart from Colegio.
Oh, romantic.
We go from way back.
Nice.
And after that, after Faculty of Law, I wanted to do economy. So I went to the Faculty of Economics and Finance. And now I'm doing my MBA. So I'm joining the MBA program. So actually, 3 faculties at the University of
Oh,
Aruba.
wow. This is like the example of the lifelong learner. Yeah.
Yes.
But did you always know you wanted to study law as a young child coming from Colegio? And then, or what triggered it? Could you tell us a bit about that journey and how you made your choice?
My journey is peculiar in the sense that at Colegio, I did what was more like math, science, and
The STEM kind of subjects, I guess.
Yes, so that's actually my background, so numbers. And here I had a definition because I always wanted to help people, and I went to law school more like to understand what were my rights and how I could contribute to my community and to Aruba. And after that, I went to the Faculty of Economic and Finance. There, I felt in love with the entrepreneurial mindset that they
instilled and inspired. Wow.
Yes, and then I did the MBA, but again, it was at the Faculty of Economic and Finance where I really found, I think, my vocation. That's why I'm at the Department of Economic Affairs now, where we help a lot of entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs succeed in their daily business.
Right. So having all this experience, this work experience, and traveling through and finding your vocation, what would you say to those youngsters who are now 18? Because it is always difficult to really figure out what you really want. What would you like to share for those youngsters or parents listening in? Because we do have our open house next week, Thursday. I'm inviting everybody at the same time, and it's always so difficult, 17, 18, 19, what do I want to do? What would you say to them?
Yes, I'm going through that process now with my eldest son. He's 19. So he's busy also choosing a career. What I can say is do what you really you're passionate about, and also what's the purpose you want to accomplish with your study. But again, even like in my case, started with law, then went to economics.
Right. That's okay.
It's completely okay. And again, I'm still I keep up. I don't stop with studying, and
still a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
Jocelyne,
you.
I know
Maybe
you have a teenager as well, who most probably starting to who's starting to prepare for their educational
Shout
trajectory.
out to the kids.
But tell us yours first, because then we'll go to theirs. What was your education trajectory? Where did you go to school? How did you end up being where you are? And was it one smooth ride?
Yeah.
It's never a smooth ride.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Listen up,
well, it's not true. For some people, maybe it's a smooth ride. I know enough people that for whom it is a smooth ride, but most people I know, and when you really dig in, you hear that it's not always a smooth ride. In my case, I think the first hurdle I had was that I went to Brugklas MAVO because even though I had a high grades for everything, I had a 6 voor Nederlands. And then in Brugklas MAVO, that time they sent kids to Colegio already, like in December, but they didn't send me. I had 9 en 10 for everything except 6 voor Nederlands. And then they found out that I didn't know how to spell. Well, guess what? I still have challenge with spelling in every language.
Oh, really?
But you speak
I
more
can
than one
write.
language.
No, but it's funny, it's just that's the way my brain functions, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny, So, anyways, I went to Tweede HAVO, derde VWO. And then, so I jumped. I think they said I was the first one at college who did that. So
Yeah, because I was thinking I've never heard of that,
No, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Wow.
Never blijven zitten. And finished Collegia Aruba in 85. I finished my VWO. And most of my peers went to study in the Netherlands. I decided I wanted to go to the United States, so I went and studied political science at Brandeis University, which was a very competitive university, and I had to work really hard. What was great about that, what I loved, is like the American entrepreneurial mentality, is that I did internships every summer.
Oh, wow.
So, and I had a CV when I finished studying, and I did a program.
Why is that so important?
Why?
Just for our viewers and our listeners.
You know why? And I did an exchange as well, an exchange in
Okay.
Paris at the most prestigious university for political science, where all the French diplomats go, and in French. But what it is that why it's so important, because I always say, when later on in my career, especially when I was the Minister Plenipotentiary for Aruba at the Embassy of the Netherlands in Washington, I worked a lot with stagiaires. I always told them, listen, you may have a degree, the person next to you may have the same degree, but it doesn't tell me who you are, and it doesn't tell me about your ambition.
I see
and
Sharon
it also doesn't tell
shaking
me.
her head.
But the moment I see what you have done, the exchanges you have done, and if you have published anything, it tells me so much of who you are and your ambition, and really makes you more interest for the person sitting across from you. And that exactly helped me get into the United Nations at the age of 22.
Wow.
They were impressed by my CV, that I went to a good university, and that I had already done a lot. And so they were, and I think that distinguished me. And I must say, our languages. So as Aruba, you have that advantage. So don't make yourself small. Don't think you come up from a small island and you don't have that. You have great things. You have to make it
It's
happen.
really, thanks so much for sharing that, because I think too often we hear, the Americans and the Europeans, this and that. And look, we have different urban, very strategic positions, very strategic, and many opportunities. But what do we do with them? What do we? How could we change that mindset on thinking we're coming from a small island?
Well, you know what? That's one. I mean, for me, I think a lot of it as well has to do with your home education. And you alluded to my mom. My mom was a highly educated woman, and her family really plays value on education. Some other families may place value on being a successful entrepreneur, and that defines your success. Other families don't define success, don't even talk about success, don't talk about advancement. So I think it's indeed that education is extremely important, and many studies have shown that the more educated women are, and mothers as well, the more prone to being educated are their children.
Yep.
And in my case, I can attest to that within the family context, right? But it doesn't mean that because you're not educated that you cannot advance. Of course you can, but it's your mindset.
Correct.
It's that you value education and you see education for what it can provide, the lifestyle it can provide for you.
Yep.
The
and
that
that
you
can
do,
open.
the doors that it can open for you. And as I tell my teenagers that are also at the same stage, you have to first follow your passion, and then also make sure that you do something you like, but also be very realistic what kind of lifestyle you would want, because ultimately you're going to contribute to society, but you're going to also, want to have a lifestyle that you like, and only through education opens opportunities for you. It opens doors. And that's what education does.
There's so many things that go through my mind.
I jot down a few things like, okay, I wonder if we have time for this.
I just want to say, the idea that, as you said, you did the MAVO, and whether sometimes, you have all the nines, and you might think, oh, that is, you're entitled to just because you have, and this one thing that is not perfect as yet, you can work on bettering, because I could imagine that you had a 6, but maybe by the time that you went to HAVO, you put some extra effort into making that 6 a 7, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, well, in HAVO, I did have probably an 8, then in VWO, I probably had a 6, and I graduated with a 6,
Yeah.
But you know what? it's okay, because and once, I think the very important thing, I think the younger you know that you don't necessarily have to be perfect at everything, that everybody has its assets.
Yep.
I look, sometimes people put other people down, because of their personalities, or because they think they're better and they feel that they're better than somebody else because they do something better. I've learned, and I tell my kids, nobody's brain functions
No,
the same.
Right.
And you don't command your brain necessarily. You can train your brain, yes, but
Yeah.
your brain can be trainable in certain ways, but there's no value to be given to the way that a person's brain functions, and it doesn't mean that one society, has biases. Like, we have all kind of biases, but we also have biases, gender biases, we have biases on everything, but we also have biases on people's education and social economic
Yes.
strata, and it's hard to get rid of those biases.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, be accepting and just see where your strengths are and try to pursue those.
Correct. I see Sharon is shaking her head, but I know, Deborah, we need to go a bit just now to our International Women's Conference, but seminar, sorry. But I do want to ask, because this is, you always get a little curious and you want to get to know someone a little better. And what is it that you can tell us about yourself, or what would your friends say about you? And feel free to say something nobody knows, or something that they can look at you differently. Let's get into that, really getting to know Sharon and Jocelyne, and then we'll go into the conference.
Okay, what my
Hobbies-wise.
Kiko po to buy bisa. Whoa.
Hobbies-wise, you're good in the
Okay, let your
kitchen,
husband close his ears. Kids, close your ears.
No, I think
Just
first
kidding.
of all, I consider myself a loyal person, like in the sense for my friends. So I'm also creative. I really think outside the box. So that's why also I have different background of studies. I don't box myself into
Super.
in one mindset or mentality. And I think what I hope my friends say about me. By the way, I have friends since Brugklas Collegio. We're still friends. So
Wonderful.
since we were
Loyal
12,
friends, so it says a lot.
Wow, loyalty, yeah.
So I think I hope I'm a person, or they think that I'm a person of integrity.
Which is important.
That is very important
Wherever I
value.
go and whatever I do, I'm driven. But my values and my morals guide me in everything I do, in my work, in how I raise my children. And that's if there is a legacy you want to leave for your children, is that I want them to be good human beings.
Yeah. So instilling those values at an early age is extremely important. Just one other quick question: your hobbies. What are your hobbies?
I do a lot of stuff. As I'm creative, I'm good with my hands. So I do from painting to...
Okay.
Where do you get time with 3 kids?
Yes.
That's the good
with
question.
3 kids, my job, household and everything. I say this, if you want to do something, there's always a way.
There you go.
You
That's
structure
it,
it.
strong,
It doesn't matter. As I mentioned, I did the Faculty of Economics and Finance, being a mother of 2 back then. And it wasn't easy. My children were small, and my husband did it with me. So
This is just admirable. Yeah.
So I did it, and as you mentioned, Charisse, I did it with a cum laude. It was an historic graduation.
Yes,
back
it
then.
was.
So with the 10 for my thesis. So I say
And
it again.
cum
it
laude
does-
is for it's an average of an 8, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I got a 10 for my thesis, being a mother of 2. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to all the girls or even mothers that are listening to this program. It's never too late, or it doesn't depend on your circumstances. If you really want it, you can go for it. You can structure. You can plan. There's always a way. And as Jocelyne also said, education is really valuable, and it opens doors, and it opens a world of opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. And for you, Jocelyne, I mean, we've heard a lot about who you are, but I'm sure somewhere there's 1 or 2 things that even some of your friends don't know about you. I don't know.
Tell us.
They don't know.
That they don't.
I'm a very open person, so I doubt that my friends don't know certain things about
Just
me.
saying that. Well, sometimes you just don't know.
Or tell us about your secret.
My secrets, all those secrets. But one thing I want to, for me as well, integrity. I must say that integrity is extremely important value for me. My father always used to tell us, make sure you don't go to bed. You go to bed with a clear conscience.
Yeah.
Nothing you did was wrong. And that is so embedded in me, and I see that I have a very low tolerance for when things are going a different way than integrity would have it need to go in that direction. Let's put it that way. So it's been so instilled in me. So, that's why values indeed are so important, and values at home, but values in education as well. Education is also a strong value that you must have, I think, in my opinion. But
and hobbies?
And hobbies, I love swimming. I love hiking, reading. And my biggest passion is traveling. And I think that also has to do why I chose the career I did. And I traveled the world through working. And I still try to do as much, but for me, traveling is is the biggest passion I have.
Oh, wow.
Okay, nice.
And so, because we've touched base a bit already on, women, I've heard, without even unconsciously, that the role that women play in our lives, in a society, has been brought forward. And for this reason, tomorrow, for those of you listening in, the University of Aruba will be organizing a seminar as titled in preparation for the International Women's Day next week, Tuesday on the 8th. The seminar is called Advancement of Women's Education in Aruba, Quality of Education and Gender Equality, and especially the last two, so quality of education and gender equality, are based on both the SDGs 4 and 5, for which, Jocelyne, we're not going to go too much into that, but just in one sentence, both these SDGs and the SDGs in general, can you just say something about the importance of the SDGs and of these two SDGs?
Okay, well, of SDGs in general, the importance of SDGs is that it's a holistic and comprehensive framework to advance the well-being within societies, so the social, economic, and also well-being, and that this is done in balance with protecting basically our environment. So it's also brings forward a new economic model also that is not the one that we had before, where we just built and built and built without considering what effect economic progress as it was before may have on the planet, but also on the well-being of people in the broader sense of the world. So that's very important. And of course, without gender, it's known by now, and gender equality is an important part of that, because without equality, with gender discrimination, you will have less equality, and you will have less women being part of the economic development, have a lesser role in social development, and not being to contribute well to our environmental protection, because maybe they don't know, and because their livelihoods doesn't give them any other opportunity to do so. And the same, so the more educated women are, there is a strong link. First you need to educate women in our level to play a more important role in society and stop, definitely stop discrimination against women, and less access to where they can thrive within societies and play a role in their own, and have the power to make choices and to play a role in the development of themselves, and then in development of their community, either their mothers or not, but in wherever they are, through their children, through their work environment. And they need to be protected to do so as well. And there you have to have the legislative framework, but definitely they also need to be protected from gender-based violence, and that's including through law, but also through institutional frameworks that need to be in place to do that.
Yeah. So those of you who just tuned in, this is Straight Up a Conversation About Education, a program sponsored by and powered by the University of Aruba in collaboration with Sopi Mix. And today we're talking with Jocelyne and Sharon. And as we go as we are discussing the conference. So I want to ask Sharon just to lift the lyric just a little bit for those who are very interesting. I'm not sure, Deborah, is there any more space to register? Because people are saying, what is it on Zoom? And isn't it, and I think it's a face-to-face. Could you elaborate just a bit more before we go to Sharon?
So it will take place tomorrow between 5 and 7 at the University of Aruba. Need to register. So to register, you'll be able to do that via our website, www.uaaw. And there's a max capacity because, of course, with organization and space and, it's a small network event after, we need to know what we're preparing for. And I've had the question, are we going to be live? Now, that's something as organizers we'll have to do, but also because the manner in which it will be done, there will be parts of it that will be missed in the discussion. So I'll definitely do my best to at least tape it, and people can always look back to that. Maybe we can air it on the 8th itself.
Yes.
But we'll have different speakers, from which Jocelyne will be one of them. Our Prime Minister will also be speaking.
Yes.
Director of the University, Viola Huitger, will also be saying welcomes word.
We'll
Charisse,
yes.
We also have some testimonials, just as
Sharon
we have students from the university, females who have indeed graduated having 5 kids or 3 kids and being single moms. So those are the stories that we should be focusing on International Women's Day, to empower them.
Correct. And if I may, just to clarify, we're not having, indeed, like you said, we're not able to do it on Zoom, because what's going to be so different from this seminar is that we're going to really have, or we taught that it's important to take time to discuss the action plan, which Jocelyne is going to be discussing in a bit, so we can really have those conversations and see what women think, what is actually happening in our society right now, and where should we really, really put a lot of attention towards. So it's going to be different. It's just not come in, sit down, and absorbing all of that knowledge and information, but actually, and most important, is we want to have their participation. So, when a university organizes something, it's always different, and most of all, we value the opinion of others. So if you haven't signed up, if you haven't signed up, please do so. Space is limited, and most of all, come prepared so you can share your knowledge. So if it's okay, Sharon, could you just talk
your
a
part,
bit?
because Sharon
has
a very important role to play.
If I look at the name, let me see if I can whip it up quickly. Sharon is unraveling the Aruban woman. That sounds so interesting.
Yes,
could you give us a few pointers on your part?
Just a little. I'm inviting, so for the one that didn't register yet, to actually come and join the journey of unraveling our Aruban women. So we are going to go a little through history, as it's International Women History Month. So a little from where we came and how are we doing now. We are going, I'm trying to do in 10 minutes because it will be very short, but to give an overview of not only their economic status, how are we now as women, how are we doing, but also maybe the social aspect of women. And also we're going to try to, I'm not going to give a lot of details, but to go through that journey, how we progressed during the years. In 10 minutes.
Wow, that's really special, because
it's
never
the start of a conversation where I'm sure we will continue further and looking at this advancement, because I have to say, I'm just adding before we go to Jocelyne, that this event Jocelyne, forms also part of a national gender project that is coordinated by Dr. Paula Kebelaar from the IPA, also supported by the rector of the university and our Prime Minister of Aruba. And the idea is that at the end, in 2024, we should be able to have a publication on gender, education, and motherhood in Aruba. So this is a project, this is just the kick-off of several events that will lead up to something, because I think there isn't much written at the moment about the role we play. So this is why the seminar is also so important. But there's also an important part of the seminar, which is the Aruba Gender Policy. And Jocelyne, you've done so much, and I know you play a very important role in this. Again, very short. What's it about, and what
what can the participant expect?
Okay, so yes, I'm the chair of the Gender Steering Committee for Aruba, and we are a group of multiple actors from the private sector, the public sector, and as well of academia. And the idea was for us to form the first comprehensive gender policy for Aruba, which we did. And we don't only have a gender policy now on the table, but actually also a draft action plan and a monitoring and evaluation framework. And why is that important? So a gender policy, why is it important? Because we know that women, and Sharon will speak about that, how as well women not only in the world but in Aruba have made great strides and the position have a better position than before. Yet there are still advancements to be made in many areas if we really want women to have a greater well-being in their community, a better sense of well-being, but also to be greater contributors to our society. So the gender policy then focuses on 4 areas, which I will mention then tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the participants will have an opportunity then to kind of look at areas of the action plan, and then also to come with perhaps further recommendations, and also see how they can make a contribution to actually the gender policy, because very often we see policy that it's just something that the government needs to execute. No, it takes a whole society to make the world that we live in better. The government cannot do this on its own. So if we want more gender equality in our society, it will take everybody to have a role and to take responsibility for this. So we're hoping that tomorrow as well, people will be inspired to play a part in advancing the situation of women in Aruba further. And by having this framework in place, I think it facilitates and it organizes the way that we do things, because the gender policy really shows where the focus is needed most for us, basically, to make the inhaalslag, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah.
Can you reveal, I'm just curious, for those who might miss it, can you reveal at least one area, just one something where we need to make that inhaalslag?
Well, the elimination of gender-based violence, which I think a lot of people know, but,
you
and
can read the news.
But I think that's just very, very... has deep roots, and I think for that as well, I think for me the most important is to to strengthen the and overcome structural barriers that impede gender equality and transform gender relations. And I think we'll be looking at the role of media and how the media can do that, because the biases and discrimination are sustained in many areas. It's not just through perhaps some legislation that's still, even though we have very good legislation, but a lot of it has to do with the bias that we have, not only as men, but as women, as society as a whole, in terms of what the different gender roles are, and what their responsibilities, not only the rights and responsibilities are of each people in towards certain activities and roles that they have.
Yeah. And just to clarify, Deborah, I'm sure men are also invited, because we are celebrating International Women's Day and we want to talk about the gender policy. So I don't want men to feel that they're excluded, are they?
No, they aren't. And coincidentally, I got that comment from someone today at the university.
I just want to make sure,
there's no man in our setup. This is, again, inclusiveness. We talk about inclusiveness and diversity at the University of Aruba. When you said gender biases, I thought of Sharon as your entrepreneurship,
Yes.
And you said there are lots of female entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship on the women was something back then, definitely not. And things have changed, there might have been. But can you tell us something about the percentage of women, for example, who are entrepreneurs here on the island?
And the challenges they face.
To be honest, I'm just going to give an estimate. We only have around 30% that are women entrepreneurs that own a business, are owners or directors. Nonetheless, we've seen a growth. Steady growth. Due to COVID also, in the last years, we've seen a lot of interest of women that they really think, and maybe before they had a hobby, they were doing something, but they weren't formally doing a business or register. And now we see, and again, they have the capacity, they have the talent, they have the knowledge, but sometimes they need that little push, or that also to feel that they're not alone. Because something that we really notice, it's our, like Jocelyne said, everybody's brain works different, and women, in difference with men, do business differently. Yeah. So sometimes we have group of women that we have projects, and for instance, women do network differently than men. And yes, so you see then also the way they perceived, or when they internationalized, they do it in a different way than men does. Nonetheless, they are now getting the capacity. We're trying to build capacity in order for them to also compete in a men's world, because still business is a man's world. So.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, because I said, okay, that is one bias, because people always say, yes, but we heard that, and, so what would you say, because we want them to come, we want the men to come as well, but what would that one or two sentences that you could say, look, encourage women to continue doing, because they face some challenges?
Again, we have a lot of businesses, like if we're talking about entrepreneurs, women that started with arts and craft. I'm saying here in Aruba, that not only started their business during COVID, but are now successfully exporting. So that there is a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of possibilities. As I say again, there's always a way. If you really want to do it, there's always a way. There are some difficulties. I'm not saying it's easy, being a mother and have different other responsibilities. However, in our experience dealing with group of women, we have like a almost virtual women business incubator, because they help each other. We meet monthly, but during the week they help each other with a lot of other aspect of doing business. That's something different also that we see in the way they do it, and they're extremely successful. They have different business in the States, open in the States, and they're doing a lot of services internationally.
Wow, I'm sure that during or after the conference, people would want to, really have a conversation with you. Is there an opportunity for networking tomorrow?
Yes, there is an opportunity for networking for those who register. And as I've said, there's a limited amount of space left, because first come, first serve. So if you are unable to register, then I'm sorry. We'll then look into maybe doing this live. But I thought it was interesting what you said with the differences between how women and men network, do business and network, because it's so important. It's one of my master thesis, and I am looking forward at doing my PhD on that, is looking at the difference between men and women, which there's a theory about, and I translated it into ethnic minorities, and how, let's see, for Aruba, that would mean the Aruban versus, it could be English-speaking Caribbean or Spanish-speaking Caribbean. We all go about doing things differently, and women and ethnic minorities have been often described as being those who have entered the labor force at a later date, so that's why the way of connecting and doing network and building relationships are different. They also, within our society, have a lower status. They are viewed as being insignificant, not of added value, and also our tendency for homophilous relationships. Yes. Apparently, we have that a bit stronger than men, and this is one of the reasons why I'm considering, because a PhD is also not something you just think of doing. It takes a lot of time. It takes away from your family. It takes away from all your extracurricular activities. I'm thinking about it, but I'm sure a man would have gone totally different. They would have said, "Oh, I'm doing it," and to hell, with the expenses. But it's definitely a conversation I'd like to have, because we underestimate our network in helping us advance. And I'm not saying that people should go establishing friendship just for doing it, but understanding our biases and what restrains us from connecting with other people would definitely help us in making better choices
Yeah,
in the future.
thank you for sharing that, Deborah. And I'm really happy to hear that, because the more I hear that she's going to do a PhD, I'm happy. I'm going into
It's a
business,
process,
and you're
it's a
doing a
process.
PhD. So, and I think as women, we need to empower and encourage each other. So I think we will use this network. And again, as you mentioned, this is just the first activity, and the intention is, as we're going to have Dr. Anders Paula Kibler, make sure she does the research, and that we have the figures and we know what we have to do in Aruba to move forward. It is also your opportunity to take time out, have these meaningful conversation, and really don't look at the others and say, oh, they're so lucky, but try and engage and make sure you are part of the process. So we, together with the government, the SCG committee, with IPA, we're giving you this opportunity where we will start the network, and there are going to be other opportunities as well. But, it's we as a small island, we can make the difference. We can make the difference. Jocelyne, you talked about that a bit, and, I want to, just... because I'm looking at the time at the same time, and I was like, oh my God, yes. Yeah, it's almost there. I would like to say, what would your invitation be to anybody listening to this podcast at this moment?
Well, I think definitely if you can join tomorrow, I think it will be a very great opportunity to advance your knowledge, actually, on different subjects, and including through strong stories that Sharon and your student from the university, and of course the Prime Minister, how she puts it together, and also we'll have some videos, of course. So I think it's important to keeping yourself learning. That's the whole concept of lifelong learning, because that also helps you progress as a person, whatever your gender is. But I think what I've noticed in my career, through the bias that still exists, we women tend to need almost be better prepared than men. And I say that as a professional, and I've learned that from mentors, saying, I always have to make sure that I'm 200% prepared for things, because they will still look at you differently, because the bias is still there, that, you're almost, as a professional or as an educated person, you're intruding in a man's world, almost.
Sharon, your last words are...
No, I'm inviting everybody. So as was mentioned before, this is the first step to start the conversation, and invite all of our women that are interested in come to hear and learn, and know that there are a lot of possibilities for us. Sometimes we do not have maybe the right tools at that moment. However, we are women, we are strong, we are smart, we can do everything we put our mind to. So come and be part of this conversation.
And with that, I think we've come to another end of our first straight-up conversation about education here. On Sopi Mix,
I feel so empowered right now. I can just feel the energy in a room, and
already thinking, how can we, our next event? Because I would like to indeed look at women entrepreneurship and what can we learn from that group. And you said with that incubation, I'm just curious about that process.
And they're extremely successful. I'm extremely proud of them.
And I think they can share their experiences so that others can help and build their own incubators. And that way we have our little incubators, and we all can move forward. So
and it comes back to the lecture that we had, was it last week, with Christy Hammer, where she talked about, quit being so good, how to be unapologetic as a woman. And it really reminds me of, take up space, we shouldn't
don't be
shrink.
Afraid. Don't be afraid.
Don't shrink in the board.
Don't make yourself small.
Don't stand in the shade. Stand out there.
And try to be first, as you say, sometimes we doubt ourselves. I think we don't know the answer. We're like, oh, well, I'll wait for the man to go first because I'm sure he knows better. No, be first in
anything,
and then find the helpers, which is with the incubation, with your network. That's where you find, because women are already helpers. That's one of the things that Christy kept on emphasizing. But seek for helpers, help each other. So
And don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, as women, we tend to be powerful and say, "For no, we got this. We're superwoman." We're not. We need our helpers.
I tell you when
I'm
I'm drained, so I need your help.
And and that's the way we can feed off each other's energy. But our listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us for a conversation about education, powered by the University of Aruba, and in collaboration with Sopi Mix. This is our first edition.
And we will be back next week, Thursday at 3:30 to 4:30, different hour, but we'll be there. So follow us on all our platforms, and we look forward to seeing you next week again.
Have a really awesome week, and looking forward to seeing you also at our International Women's Day Conference.
Tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, dankie.
Yo, you don't know. We going global with this thing.